Its allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Tonight's meeting is a hybrid meeting. It's both in person and via Zoom. The public is invited to attend either way and is available both under Zoom and under the normal schedules or TV program. So I'm going to ask Diane, you're here. Okay. Tony D.
Here.
I'm here. Art Grace.
I'm here.
Larry Sloman.
Here.
Christine.
I'm here.
Okay. Phyllis.
Yes.
Didn't sound like those.
Phyllis. Okay. Tony Straka.
Here.
And Simona.
Here.
It appears that who's here? Phyllis appears to be absent, so the alternates will alternate voting tonight. Okay. That brings us to the agenda, which is available up here on the corner if anybody wants a copy of it. Let me explain for those unfamiliar with how the process works. On the agenda are applications. Each applicant will come forward and describe their application. The public will, actually they'll be questioned by members of the board. The public will have an opportunity to make any comments. When the record's closed, we'll go through the entire agenda. At the end of the agenda, then it will be deliberation, where the board members will deliberate and make a decision. At that time, the record's closed, and there'll be no more input from either the applicant or the public. For those applicants or members of the public, you can wait until the end of the meeting to determine whether it's granted or denied or modified in some way, or you can call the zoning administrator in the morning. Okay? With that, under old business agenda item number 1, Stewart's Shop, there's a request to have that adjourned until November 8th. So I'd make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, then. Item 1 is adjourned November 8th. So that brings us to item number 2, Chipotle, 3532 North Road. Is there someone here from that applicant?
Martin Berger, on behalf of EFG Saber Heritage LLC, is on the phone, and I believe representatives of the tenant Chipotle are also on the line.
Correct. James Bradman, design manager for the store from Chipotle Restaurants, also on the line.
Okay. Do you both swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Martin
Yes.
Berger does.
Dan Radman does, yes.
Okay.
Okay, and so since the last meeting, you've provided some illustrations of where you want the sign and what it's supposed to look like and the sizes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And
In addition to that, EFG Saber Heritage sent in a letter describing the hardship situation that we have and emphasizing the support of ourselves in connection with Chipotle's application.
Yo. Okay, that's well, that'll be made part of the record. So, anything else you want to add other than the documents that you provided?
I would just like to, this is Dan Radman from Chipotle. I would just like to add a bit of context to the package that was submitted at the conclusion of the last meeting. The request was made by the board for us to revisit, in addition to submitting the images for the proposed third sign with views from the road, to revisit the size of the other signs that we had already had approved for the other 2 elevations on the building. Unfortunately, both of those signs, because they already had been approved as of right, since they were in compliance with the regulations as written, those 2 signs had already been fabricated. So our current package that we submitted does show those 2 signs and their sizes, in addition to the proposed size of the third sign. which is one of our the smallest format of sign that we do of that logo for an exterior. We might put the smallest size.
So, looking at the illustrations that you provided, there's one page that has the corner of the building with both signs visible,
Mm-hmm.
and 3 photographs alongside that.
Correct. I'm just going to the package right now. Bear with me 1 second, sorry.
Sure. And then, yeah, and I don't want to compare it to that one.
There it is.
So, and then there's another illustration that shows it from the entrance into the plaza.
That's correct.
So it's where it says sign, it has indicated as signs C as in Charles.
Correct. Sign C is the new proposed sign.
That sign that's illustrated in the entranceway into the project, is that the same size sign that's illustrated on the previous, those 3 smaller photographs?
Yes.
And are each of those signs on those 3 photographs all the same size?
Yes, they are. To the best of our ability. It is a Photoshop, so we were scaling it to the best of our ability to show it in real scale.
And how do they compare to the signs, to the size of the signs that are already fabricated?
Significantly smaller. The ones that were fabricated are, you just find the dimensions here. It's one of the larger ones. I believe it's 15 feet across. The smaller sign is 12 feet, so it's 3 feet shorter. And you can see on the image where we have the package where it's kind of at the corner of the building. That's the northwest corner. There's a white van in the image on the right. The left sign, which has a sign above the awning, that is the already fabricated and as a right sign. You can see how much larger that one is compared to the sign on the west elevation, which is the one we're looking for the variance on.
So, if I understand what you said, those 2 that are already fabricated are 15 feet wide? They're the same?
Hang on 1 second. I'm trying to find the exact dimension here.
So like 15.2, something like that?
Yeah, it's bear with me.
Total?
I just want to make sure, I want to make sure I'm quoting the correct dimension for record. So sign, correct. The one on the, let me get my orientation here. The one on the elevation facing the inner road, that's the east elevation. That one is 12 feet and 5/8 of an inch. And then the one that is on the north elevation above that canopy in that image, that one is 13.3 overall.
And the ones that you want to put on the,
Is 12 feet as well. That's the smallest of our palette of signs for exterior elevations.
so the sign that you want to place facing Route 9, the west side,
Yep.
is the same size as the sign that's over the awning?
No.
On the facing the inner roadway, which is the east elevation.
West.
West is facing the road.
Not North Road, but the inner facing the Burger King, which is our tenant across the road from us. I believe that's the east elevation.
Right, is that the awning?
That's where the awning is.
Pardon?
That's the awning sign, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's awnings on both sides. There's awnings on 2 sides.
This is getting,
Paul, wasn't your question about the west elevation?
Yes.
I wanted to compare the sign that they want to put up with the signs that they are already fabricated.
The sign that we want to put up is 12 feet, which is the same size as the sign that's proposed for the east elevation, also 12 feet. The one that is facing our inner parking area, that is the north elevation.
Correct.
That one is larger at 13.5 feet
I'm not really confused.
overall length.
Which elevation is the white truck at?
That would be the north.
Right. That's north?
That's
No,
north.
that's west.
No,
That's
no, that's west.
No?
Yeah?
No,
Yeah.
No, it's not.
No, it can't be.
That's the proposed one.
no.
No.
You don't think?
The one
you
with,
think that's
the
reasonable?
one that has no awnings or anything on it, just our back door with the red brick on 3/4 of that elevation, and then the white
Truck.
stucco up above where the signage is, that is the west elevation.
So that's facing Route 9.
That's the one facing Route 9, correct?
That's
Oh.
photoshopped in, yeah.
Right.
Okay, that's,
I mean, these are all the same.
what are you saying?
No, they're,
Telling me.
They're all the same location.
yeah. But they're different sides of the building.
No,
Yes.
Yes.
these are
Those,
These
on
are all
those, the ones
west.
on the right are the ones facing,
west,
Route 9.
right,
West.
west.
Correct.
And so is this.
No.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I think
Well-
so. I didn't think so at first, but that's what he said.
So,
But maybe not.
you look
The
at-
only
if you
difference
look at-
between the ones on the right, Paul, is the bottom of that all-white stucco has been bricked.
Is what?
Right.
Has been bricked.
Right.
So if you look at the ones on the right and imagine the bottom part of that underneath the
Oh, okay.
line being bricked, it's the same side of the building.
Yeah, it's just.
On the larger picture, it's got the brick. On the smaller 3 pictures, it doesn't have the brick, but it's the same size of the building.
Yeah.
Oh, that's different.
Okay.
I don't think we have a picture in the packet of the east elevation.
No.
No, we don't have a picture. We only have our shop drawing 2-dimensional elevation.
So the one you want to put up on the west side facing Route 9 is 12 feet long?
Uh-huh. Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And that's how many feet from Route 9?
Oh, Martin, do you know that number? I think it was like 200 and, the original question was how many feet from the pylon or the pylon sign is it, or the monument sign? And I think the response that Susan gave was 250 feet, I believe.
Yeah, I would say it's about 250 feet, yes.
From, from Route 9 and perpendicular or from the entranceway?
On a perpendicular.
Okay.
The pylon on the perpendicular line to the building.
And let me ask you this, if you can tell me, driving northbound on Route 9, where would you see this sign? From where would you first see the sign, and when will you stop being able to see the sign on the west side of the building?
That would be that view that we have on the third to last page, which you see the monument sign on the left side of the image and the building on the right. That's the view coming northbound on 9.
Right.
As you're at the intersection, and that you will get that view even before the intersection slightly, right as you pass the gas station on the right side.
Right, but
And
how
then
far,
that will-
how far north are you able to see the sign?
There is a tree line further north, but it's probably, Martin, correct me if I'm wrong, I would say it's about at least 1/8 of a mile or so, you know, at least 1,000 feet or so further past the intersection.
Yeah, I would say at least, yeah, at least.
All right, and southbound,
Yep,
the same, you could pick it up 1,000 feet from the intersection?
that's about right, yes. As you come southbound, you are seeing the Hudson Heritage site on your left. the building would not be in view until you pass that tree line, and then you get the full building in view, as well as some of the other buildings that are our neighbors.
What's the difference in height elevation?
Yeah, I mean, simply stated, the building is elevated and set back off of Route 9. And, you know, without this sign, it's quite difficult to have anyone understand that the building is a Chipotle building. The pylon is simply inadequate to do that.
Is it possible for you to provide some illustration of the view along Route 9? Other than just the entranceway?
The answer is there is no view on Route 9. The site is 20 feet plus above Route 9. Without having signage on the top of Route 9, there is simply zero sightlines to the building.
Yeah, so I want to know when,
Elevation change between Route 9 and the first floor of the Chipotle is at least 20 to 25 feet high.
You can kind of get a feel of what Martin's describing from those the page that has the 3 images of the back of the building on the right side. The middle image, you can tell how much elevated that's not taken at Route. It was actually taken at Route 9, but it's zoomed in a little bit. The broader picture of that, you would see how elevated the building is relative to the Route 9 line. You can tell how the lawn ascends up to the building.
so can you tell me where along Route 9 each of those 3 photos are generated?
Let's
So
see,
there's
the
one
first
that has a
photograph.
walkway in it where you can barely see the sign.
Yep, that's just inside the drive as you pass the monument sign that's close to the street. You'll turn into the drive, and that would be the view just past the monument sign.
Okay.
There is some landscaping there, and that landscaping to the right is concealing all types of, I believe it's pumps and storm sewer piping and things that are in that corner. The middle image, like I said, is taken from Route 9, approximately perpendicular to that west elevation. But again, we zoomed in since it is pretty far, so we zoomed in to get better composition and reading of the elevation. And then the bottom image is similarly also from Route 9, but just probably a little bit further south of the direct perpendicular position. Again, zoomed in just so you could see it.
Okay. That's all I have. Christine?
No questions right now. Thank you.
Art?
I think I'm okay, as long as that's the 12-foot facing Route 9. And
Okay.
that's the main question. That seems to be the answer is yes, right? If that's the case, I have no other questions right now.
Okay.
Any chance of a photograph of the
Can you move your
Chipotle
mic?
sign that will be on
Oh,
the...
yeah, make sure you speak into the microphone.
Is there any chance of getting a photograph of the Chipotle sign that will be on the actual monument sign? Because at this point, it's hard to put it.
I think we sent in a picture of the view from Route 9 looking north at the pylon.
Right, but is your...
Typically, they have like one of the smaller squares. Like,
Yeah, we have, let me see, there's 14 smaller squares. Each is half the width of the sign, and each is probably only, 8 inches or so tall. You can see in that image, ShopRite's at the top of the monument sign, and at the bottom left corner, there is a tenant panel in there, that red panel with the white text. I don't know whose that is, but that's the same size panel we would be getting as well. And you can, the photo kind of proves it, right? You look at that image and you're trying to read what that little panel says, and it's illegible. You can't really make out what's in that panel. I mean, it's nice that the panel's there, but it's not going to really alert passersby that we're going to be in the complex significantly enough to help us.
Are you allowed to get 2 panels to create a larger sign?
No, part of our lease agreement was that we would get 1 panel. The larger panels and the larger signs are for the anchor tenants in the complex, and Martin, you can speak further to this. We're one of the, smaller tenants, and we each get 1 of those panels. And I believe they've already probably assigned some of them to other tenants, so.
I would love to know what the dimensions are on those panels.
The dimensions they allow for basically a 6-inch letter, and when you're driving at 30, 40 miles an hour, and you're, 100 yards away, there's no way that really you're going to see it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on that one, I think the easiest thing is just to drive up there because there are signs in there. And you can see just how
Yeah,
small
but-
they are.
But it's just comparing number to number would be interesting. That's all.
Yeah, if I were to, I don't have the exact dimensions of that panel, but based on the image, I would venture that it's probably 8 inches high, maybe 4 feet wide, approximately, or maybe slightly bigger than that, but probably not much larger.
Okay, thank you.
Tony S.
No questions at this time.
Tony D.
I got a few.
Go ahead.
I just want to go over a few numbers. Eastbound sign, that's the one facing into the plaza.
Correct.
Rough size?
That's the same size as the one we're proposing for west, and that is the 12-foot sign.
So it's a 12-foot sign. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger. It's like 12 foot.
I'm not going to get into a lot of minutia here. Northbound sign.
The north elevation is larger. That one is approximately 13.5 feet.
Okay, right, sounds good. And the westbound sign is approximately the same size as the eastbound sign?
Correct, 12 feet.
Which goes into the town square center.
The town square,
Well, into the community.
facing into the inner road. Is that what you're
Main
referring
Street.
to?
Right, yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the east. That's the east sign, and that's 12 feet.
Okay, and then just, something just popped up into my mind, in the last question. On the monument panel, the images would be approximately 8 inches by 4 feet wide?
That's. I apologize. I don't have the exact dimensions.
Approximate.
But it's approximate. Yeah.
No, I'm not measuring,
Yeah.
approximate. Okay, so 8 by 4, and that would be viewed going north or south on Route 9?
Both sides.
Correct.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Simona?
I mean, it's Marty Berger, and I don't want to speak for the tenants, but if the thought is that you would grant this sign in lieu of the pylon sign, I think that would be an easy decision, that we would elect to give up the pylon sign for the building sign.
I mean, speaking for the tenant, we'd like to have both, but, we're willing to listen to what the commission has to say.
Simona?
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay. Anyone from the public wish to comment on this application? So for the applicant, again, I'm confused about the size of the sign that, I'm sorry, did you say 250 feet or 250 yards from Route 9, the side of the building? Larry, did I forget you?
250 feet.
Yeah, that's all right, I'm having a question.
Oh, sorry.
I wasn't sure.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
250 feet? Okay. So I'm just confused about the east side sign is right where the people are, and you proposing the same size sign to be seen from Route 9. Can you help me with that one?
Correct.
Oh, it's just because it's the smallest sign you have?
Thank you, Paul.
So, well, I can help clarify. If you're looking at the deck of images, the third page has the two flat, two-dimensional elevations that are the signs, quote-unquote, as of right. The top elevation, this is page 3 of 8. The top elevation is the side facing north, right? The elevation that you're referring to is the lower elevation. That has, Starbucks will be to the left in that, the building that has the peaked roof. We're to the right, and our sign is 12 feet on that elevation as well. The reason for that, if you look at that elevation, there's architectural detailing on that elevation with brick, there's a brick signage band, and then there's precast concrete trim, I'll call it, cornice trim, both above and below the signage band, which limits us in the height of the sign that we can put on that elevation. Not necessarily the width, but for all the obvious reasons, we want to maintain the right proportions of our sign. So the size of sign that we're proposing there fits within the signage band and works out to be the 12-foot size, 12-foot wide sign that we use. We could have been slightly larger on that elevation, but the band would not allow it, and we didn't want to impact the design of the building with the cornice trims. Whereas on the north elevation, which is the one above it, you can see that signage band is very tall. There's a lot of brick area there, and that's where we went to a slightly larger sign, the 13-foot 3 width. And again, our sort of mission in signage for our buildings, we try to put them in strategic locations where they get the right amount of visibility to the right direction of traffic, but our intent is not to make them as big as possible. We never do that. We don't have huge glaring signs on every one of our buildings. We try to keep them more modest and more scale appropriate to the elevation that we're putting them on. I hope that makes sense.
So, let's say, hypothetically, you were not granted this variance. Would you move any of the signs?
Would we move?
Yeah, I mean, if you're only
Or
going to
remove?
get...
Relocate?
If you were not, if this variance was not granted, would you change the location of any of these signs?
Can't.
No.
So you would not put one on the west side?
Per the current signage regulations, and again, Martin, you can elaborate on this, the way they're written is that a sign is allowed on an elevation that has a customer-facing entrance. That elevation facing west, the one we're looking for the variance on, we don't have a customer-facing entrance on that side. We have a service door for our employees, but there's no customer entrance there. Whereas the two other elevations do have customer entrances, so that's why they're as of right. And basically that's why we're here for the variance, is to forego that requirement.
All right, so I thought I wasn't confused, but now east and north. So the awning is on which side of the building?
The awning in those images is facing north.
Okay. If the would you consider giving up the east sign in exchange for the west sign?
I don't think that's a good idea, because that's the main street for the project.
We don't want to give up either one of the two already approved and as of right signs.
Okay. All right. Then that's all I have. Anyone else?
I have nothing else.
Good.
Christine, did you have? You
Well, I
have
was
a-
just gonna say, if they could achieve something a little bit larger on the pylon, if there was any way, I think that would really take care of it, because I think you'd have the best visibility on Route 9 on the pylon. Maybe they could get it moved, you know, higher up or something, I don't know. That's just a thought.
It's still the same size.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Too small.
Yeah, it's been
But
updated.
I'm just sitting here, I wish my math skills were still as good as they were 50 years ago, but if this sign on the west side of the building is going to be 250 feet from Route 9, and the lettering is 12.5 inches tall, a sign sitting on Route 9 that's 8 inches tall would have the same effect. You're going to see the 8-inch sign at eye level as you drive by just as clearly as a sign that's 250 feet away that's 12.5 inches. In fact, you may see it better. So I would just like to know how they calculate that this sign would be more effective.
It's more about having it on the building as a branding element that is visible and distinguishable from the road. Just like, you know, any other logo that you might associate with another retailer, regardless of the size, as long as it's on of a reasonable size that's on a facade, it's going to be picked up a lot. It's going to be a lot more legible than it would be on that small panel. Again, if that panel is 8 inches, and to Martin's point, the lettering is only going to be 6 inches, that's not very tall. I mean, even driving by, you're going to see it there, but you're going to probably be passing it by the time you actually are able to distinguish what that is. And you can see that even in the existing image that we sent over. That's at the intersection. If you try to zoom in on what that existing lower left panel says, it's almost indistinguishable. So yes, you'll see it as red and some text, but you won't know that's Chipotle. Whereas in that image, you can see the sign on the building. It is noticeable, and it is distinguishable as a Chipotle and a branded sign.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
I think that image speaks for itself.
Go ahead.
As you know, I'm not a big fan of signs, but the little signs that might go in the pedestal sign, there are going to be so many
Yep.
of them. A car going by at 40
Yep.
miles an hour is not going to have any idea, and no idea in the world what they say. Drive up there and see it. Just so many packed in that small area.
Mhm.
It's
Well-
essentially useless. No matter
How much of your clientele is from people just driving by?
I don't know that number.
Well, is it significant? I mean, how many?
It is. I would say it's probably, these days with the pickup windows and everything else, the drive-bys probably constitute, 15 to 20%, or maybe 10 to 15% of the sales, which is a big number.
Of people that are unfamiliar and have never been to that facility?
It all depends on the location and the duration that the location has been open. In the initial weeks and months of a store opening, we're going to get a ton of people that are going to be drive-by, that are going to be first-timers, that that will not have familiarity with the restaurant. Obviously, as time goes by and people learn where it is, that number, the ratio of first-timers to the restaurant that are coming in off the street, so to speak, is going to get lower because you have a greater volume of people who are now familiar and coming there on a regular basis.
Well, then how would you feel about a temporary sign? Based upon that analysis.
we'd rather have a permanent sign. I don't know what else to say.
Okay. Anything else from any of the boards?
It's Marty Berger. I would just like to say to the board that for the reasons that we've stated orally in writing, we have a genuine hardship. And I think that we are unequivocally qualified for a variance. And should you decide not to proceed and see it that we are, I have to give serious concern with the viability of doing any further development of out parcels whatsoever at Hudson Heritage. Because every single tenant that we have is going to have the same hardship. And it's difficult in good faith to explain to them that they can't have proper building signage.
Okay.
And I'm sorry to be so blunt, but I need to let you know how it is. We spent a lot of money, time, effort, and energy to create Hudson Heritage. We did it as a walkable community. We put the storefront facing the inside, and to not allow the buildings to have signage as they do in most other communities, you know, we're so far off the highway and we're 25 feet in the air is disconcerting. I hope truly that you consider our positions on this.
We will certainly
Well, I
consider your position. We've read your memo. We listened to your arguments.
If I could add, this is Dan Radman, if I could add one more thing. To Marty's point, we're trying to work with what we've got in terms of a development, a site development and a project development, and the regulations that are currently written, that were recently written, mind you, only 4 months ago for this complex. Every other location that we work on, unless it's in a mall condition or an interior condition, when it's a pad location or it's a inline store, our signage allowances are one of two conditions: either an elevation facing a street or an elevation with a customer entrance are the two primary driving factors for where you're allowed to place a sign. In this location, we've basically been not allowed to use one of those conditions, which is an elevation facing the street, which for all the obvious reasons is where you want the signage. You want to be able to have signage facing potential customers that are driving by.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? No? All right, then I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Okay, that's carried. That brings us to item number 3.
Thank you.
Public hearing was closed on item number 3 at the last meeting, right?
I think that's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to.
Well, actually, so I'd like to reopen it because I have another. Is the applicant here on number 3? Just a second. So I heard that there was a conversation that the applicant had with the zoning administrator about a change in fence construction.
Right, so, first procedurally, this matter was closed and wasn't noticed for a public hearing for tonight, so if you want to open a public hearing, you'd have to notice it in the paper. That being said, you are free to ask the zoning administrator about her conversations without the need to reopen the public hearing, because it would, if there's any compromise position that's available, it would allow the board to make their decision based on that, so.
Okay. So, have you had a conversation with the applicants regarding this application and the style of fencing they might consider?
Yes. Ultimately, they would like it to be moved back the way it is. But they did talk about the possibility of maybe making it semi-private, which means slightly separating the panels so that there's a space. I did look online, and to me, I don't think it makes much of a difference. But it is called a semi-private fence, so the panels just, they have a slight break in them. But,
Okay. And
to me, I don't
did you
think
get
it
an
makes a
understanding about
difference.
which sides that would be? Or would it be all the sides, or, I mean, replace the entire fence, or just on the one side of the road? Or
It was just a basic conversation on making it semi-private if that was the last resort.
Okay. All right. Then, based upon that, we'll just move to item 4. That's Glenn and Donna Smith, 5860 Van Wagner Road. Someone here from that application. Come on up and have a seat. Okay, you testified last month, right?
Yes, I
Okay,
did.
so you're still sworn. So what's new?
Nothing mainly new, except that at the first time when I applied, they had it stating that it was for 60 Van Wagner Road, which actually, the property that it's on was actually 58 Van Wagner Road, where a house previously had burned down. And my wife and I had purchased the property a number of years ago. And that's why 58 is actually the actual lot that it is on.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Christine?
No questions.
Art?
No questions.
Diane?
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions if it's Tony D.
Okay. Simona?
No questions.
Okay. Anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application?
If you're on the Zoom, just unmute yourself, or if you're on a phone, you would have to use *6 to unmute yourself. If you're in the audience, just let us know you want to speak.
All right, I don't see any indication, and so I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second?
Move.
Any discussion? All those in favor
Second.
signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. You can either wait for the end of the meeting or find out tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. That brings us to new business number 5, 63 Vassar Road. Is there any here for that application?
Yeah, I'm not sure the rabbi was going to be able to be on. Oh, there he is. Never mind.
I'm here.
Okay.
Rabbi,
I'm
do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
yes, I confirm.
Then, why don't you tell us a little bit, has anything changed since your last application?
Not at all.
Okay. And you just didn't get around to doing the project?
Excuse me?
You just didn't get around to completing or starting the project? Is that,
We're going to be starting the project soon, yeah.
okay. All right. I don't have any other questions. Christine?
No questions.
Art?
No questions.
Diane?
No questions.
Tony S?
No questions.
Tony D?
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Simona?
No questions.
Okay. Anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application?
Did they sing happy birthday?
Larry, is that you?
Sorry.
All right, just making sure it's not a comment. Got it. I don't see anybody on the Zoom trying to unmute themselves.
All right. In that case, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Although, any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That brings us to item number 6, 58 Alder Drive. Is there someone here? Okay, come on up. state your names.
Dawn Gangle.
Stephen Gangle.
Okay, make sure you speak into the microphone so we can.
Stephen Gangle.
Dawn Gangle.
Okay.
Mr. and Mrs. Yangle, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What's your application?
We are seeking to have a platform on our property. It is close to the property line, approximately 4 to 4.5 feet. The purpose of it is for wood storage as well as other storage. The reason we want it there is because it's closer to the house, so you don't have to traipse through the snow to get to the wood for the fireplace. That's really all we're looking for.
Okay. And is there a reason, I mean, you said you wanted it closer to the house, but is there a reason, A, that it has to be that size?
For wood storage and other storage, we have kayaks, we have tools, we have wood.
Okay. And is it going to be covered?
It's not going to be covered. We do have a permit for a fence that's going to be surrounding it
Okay.
on 2 sides. It's an 8-foot privacy fence. So there will be nothing that is detrimental or unsightly to see from anywhere on the road or anybody's house.
And is there a reason you can't put it someplace else?
If we put it on the other side of the shed that we have, it's still close to the property, but you have to traipse through the snow to get to the wood. So it's a lot farther away. You don't want the wood in the house, close to the house because of insects, but you also don't want to have to traipse through the yard. Otherwise, it would have to be in the middle of the yard, which doesn't make sense either.
Okay. Christine?
So there's going to be a fence on 2 sides?
Correct.
You said? Okay.
The other side, so you have, there's a fence going like an L shape, coming from the side of the garage down towards the backyard. We have a shed there, and then you have open to a patio that we have there as well.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
So we were looking to do a patio there, but it's, the way it slopes, it's impossible to do.
Thank you.
Art?
Just, my question was the 8-foot fence, can we have an 8-foot fence in the town? Or the
Yeah,
6-foot?
as long as it's not within the front line of the house.
Okay.
And it's not. It's nowhere near
No,
the
it's in
front of the
back, I
house.
know, yeah, so, okay, I'm good.
Diane?
And the entire distance of the platform is 4.5 feet from the adjacent property?
Correct. So we have a patio, from the patio out is 12 feet, and then there's another 4 to 4.5 feet of property line, based on things that we can find online for the property line, without actually having a survey done.
Tony S.
Well, just an observation. I was out there on Saturday to take a look at the site, and it seems that there might be some disagreement between the applicant and the adjacent property owner as to where the property line runs. And has that aspect of it been resolved?
Well, like
Well,
I said,
without a survey, the applicant proceeds really at their own risk. If we grant a variance based upon their request, and that turns out to be inaccurate, then they have a problem.
Okay.
so, like I said, from what we found online, it appears to be 17 feet out from the side of the garage to the property line.
And when
then-
you say online, you're using the county parcel access?
I
Yeah.
think that was the name of
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I think that was the name of it.
Yeah, I don't think you can.
I know they're
rely-
not 100% accurate, but they're within reason, I believe. And then 10 feet out from the neighbor's house to the property line.
Parcel access has an express disclaimer on it that it is not to be relied on for this type of thing, so just a warning that you would be proceeding at your own risk. There are often times where the shape of the property is correct, but it's put down on the map slightly to the left or slightly to the right. of where it actually is. So the visual on the map is generally not something we rely on.
We have also asked the neighbor, while we were in the process of this, if it was indeed definitely on our property, and she said, yes, it was definitely on our property.
It's not so much the question is definitely on your property. What we need is if you're
distance.
asking for 4 feet from your property line and you go 2 feet from your property line, you're going to have to move it back.
Right.
If it's determined that it's not where it's supposed to be. So that's
Understood.
the issue.
Understood.
Okay.
Anything else, Tom?
No, that's it. That's, felt that was pretty significant.
Tony D?
Okay, with those previous Tony S's questions in mind and answered and understood, my question is, the fencing that you'll be providing will be coming up and cutting across how should I say, covering the platform?
It'll be on the ground, going out from our garage to the neighbor's house, and then going towards the backyard. It will be entirely on the ground up, so you'll see nothing
It will cover it.
but fence.
Right,
So-
and not extending past the forward line of the house.
No, it will not, it's still behind the garage.
Okay, thank you.
Larry?
No questions.
Simona?
When we went out to see the property, there were some markers along the line that seemed to indicate a property line. Is that what the neighbor thinks is the property line?
Correct. Like I said, what we can read is 17 feet out from the side, and that is not 17 feet out.
So how close is the edge of your platform to what the neighbor is saying is the line?
From where she has it marked to the platform is probably about 2 feet.
2, 3 feet, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So we have the platform is 12 feet wide, and there's a little less than a foot from the shed out to that platform. So that's not even 13 feet. And then from the platform out would be the other 4 feet.
Anyone else? Any questions? Go ahead.
Why do you choose not to survey the property just for your own safety?
If I had to, I would. I know it's not an inexpensive thing, so if I have to, I will. I prefer not to, but
I think it's cheaper than having to move it.
I do too.
this is true.
Because the fence is going to take up another 6 to 8 inches closer to the line. Okay.
Anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application? Why don't you guys step back, and then the neighbor, I assume a neighbor, will come up.
Will I have a chance to respond afterwards?
You absolutely will.
Thank you.
You can come on up.
So I have pictures, if I could.
Why don't you have a seat, state your name, and then you'll be sworn in.
Lisa Walkoff. I live at 56 Alder Drive.
Ms. Walkoff, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right, what would you like to say?
Well, I have these pictures of everything for those of you who have not seen it with measurements. Can I pass them out to you all?
Yeah, absolutely. We've all been there, but go ahead.
Thank you. So anyways, using Dawn's measurement, 17 feet from the garage, is where I put the stake in. And it's on the second page of the pictures. There is no 4.5 feet using that 17-foot distance between the deck and the property line. The dimensions, they're say they wanted to construct a 1 foot high, 12 by 24 wooden platform for wood storage. And the measurements I took from my yard, 3 different ones in 3 different spots, show the different distances from the ground to the deck. They are correct. It is on their property because there are 2 tree stumps on the property. That's theirs. They did tell me when they were building it, it was going to be a sunbathing deck, and they did sunbathe on it all summer, and I can assure you they will be sunbathing on it next summer. I don't know, maybe during the winter they're going to use it for wood for their stove or fireplace. I don't know. I was also told that the fencing, which originally was going to be put on the deck, was going to be put on the ground so I wouldn't see it, which is true. However, it's still not 10 feet from the property line, and there is no 4.5 feet, according to what Dawn told me, 17 feet from the garage, which I measured out. And you can see on the paperwork, the second piece, where the stake is. 2 different spots. One is a couple feet, and then it goes down to like, a couple feet, then it goes down to like 30 inches closer to where their shed is.
Have you had your property surveyed?
No.
Okay. And the fence can go right on the property line or several inches from the property line?
Yeah. Yeah, it can.
Right on the road. Yeah, oh yeah, sorry.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to say?
I guess that's about it.
All right. Any questions?
Well, actually, no, I'm not
No,
going to say
wait,
it.
don't go just yet.
No questions.
Art?
No, I'm good with her.
Diane?
No.
Tony S?
No.
Tony D?
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Simona?
No questions.
Well, let me ask you this. Are you against the project?
I think it's too close to the property line.
Okay.
Anything I've had to do, I've had to follow the code, and I don't understand why certain people have to follow it and certain people don't.
Okay. If it were...
There is a spot in between the deck and their back porch that is cement, where they could put their wood, firewood, kayak. They have the kayak in the garage. There's no reason to take it out and leave it in the elements, or whatever, tools. Why would you leave tools outside when you have a shed and you have a garage where you put it in? I just don't understand.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
If the applicants, anything you want to respond to that? Okay, come on up.
So, in reference to sunbathing, we never said that. As for now, the platform was empty and it's not even finished, so we sat on it. That proves nothing other than it was there, we used it. As for the height of the platform, I do have on the application that it's about 1 foot in one area, and it does go higher down because of the slope of the property. So I do not have that it's 1 foot total off of the ground.
Okay.
What would you say, just sorry, I have a question. What would you say is the highest point? Because after a certain height, you're going to need to put railings on the deck, and then, I mean, has building been out there at all?
Building has not,
Okay.
just the zoning was there over the weekend.
Okay.
The
curious.
back corner is, I don't have the exact measurement, but it's about 30 inches, 32 inches.
Okay, all right, I would probably check with building. I don't know if you'd wanna,
If I have to put a railing on, that's not an issue
yeah.
from my standpoint.
So, what brought why are you here for a variance? How long ago did you build the deck? Was the deck built?
We started building it in, I want to say May, but we haven't done anything with it since July.
Okay, so there was or was not a building permit?
There was not initially a building permit. We didn't realize that we needed one because it was not attached to the house.
Okay. But your building permit now is awaiting the variance?
Correct.
Okay. Let me ask you this, do you want an opportunity to get a survey, which I think everyone would recommend? That
I
would,
can
I
do
think,
that.
resolve a number of issues.
I can do that. That's not an issue from my end.
I'm sorry, I can't.
I can do that. That's not an issue from my end.
What does everybody else feel about that?
I totally agree that needs to be surveyed.
So procedurally, should we just ask for like an adjournment, or should you withdraw our application until she finds out what the survey is and the actual?
So if you were to if you were to withdraw it, then you have to renotice it, but that's not that big a deal. It's up to the applicant. I would think what you may want to do is adjourn for 60 days or something like that, because I don't know if unless you have a surveyor, I know that they're all busy this time of year and it's difficult to get someone to be able to come out and do the property line survey. But, so I would recommend if you are going to adjourn it, do a minimum of 60 days. If you want to withdraw and then reapply when you have the survey so that we know. And in the interim, you may want to follow up with the building department also, regardless of what happens, to find out, because if we do need railings and things, we would probably want to see what the deck is going to look at and what the height would be of the finished deck compared to the height of the fence, that sort of thing.
Okay. Can you give me 1 second while I go talk to?
Sure. In terms of withdrawing, she's in violation now, right? I mean,
Is there a proceeding, though? So,
not yet, but
right.
if she were to withdraw it,
Yeah.
I think that after a
Yeah.
reasonable time, if she didn't make a new application, there would be some enforcement.
Yes.
I would guess.
Yeah.
Right, so but that, I mean, it could be either way. If it's adjourned and it's not followed up on, there also could be. I know that while you have an application pending, technically enforcement is stopped, so it may be a more prudent course to adjourn it rather than to withdraw it, but at the end of the day, I don't know that it makes much difference.
Well, it may make a difference to the neighbor if she just saw that nothing was happening, if it was just withdrawn and but it appeared nothing was happening, so. Your spokesman. So what would you like to do?
We're kind of torn whether we should just risk it or have the survey done. So if we do wait and do the survey, what happens? We have to withdraw?
Then you'll know exactly what you're looking at. So there's no confusion about where the property line is. And then the argument is simply whether or not you need the grounds for a variance.
Okay.
For
And-
example, if your neighbor is correct and you're 2 feet off the property line, then you would ask for the variance to allow you to be 2 feet off the property line rather than that. And that changes one of the things that the board looks at is the substantiality of the variance you're looking for. So the exact distance from the property line is meaningful for that as well as for actually having it surveyed and show where it is.
So is there, and I have no idea, that's why I'm asking, is there a big difference in asking for a variance of 5.5 feet and 2.5 feet?
82%. So the analysis is the same. It's just
The substantiality
upon the facts.
increases.
So if you were 100 feet from another property line, 2 feet or 5 feet doesn't make much of a difference. If you're 1 foot from the property line, it could make a difference.
Right.
So the analysis is the same, is whether, the analysis is really whether the benefit to you is greater than the impact on the neighborhood. But I would say that getting a survey takes away any risk if if a variance is granted and it's not accurate.
Right. So obviously the smart thing to do is to just do the survey and know for sure.
I think that would be the smart thing to do.
Okay.
But I think that protects you and the neighbor.
Right.
But you can, it's up to you what you want to do.
Why don't we adjourn and acknowledge the call? Mr. Chairman?
I think in general, the board has the prerogative to adjourn the if you want, and I think one of the things that the board should look at is whether a railing would be required and what the actual height of the structure is going to be, because we have it as a foot, and it's only a foot on one side, and it's something different on the other, in light of what the fence is going on. I think that's information the board should have before it makes its determination in any event.
Yeah, I would resubmit your highest elevations to the building department as soon as you can, so they can
Okay.
take a look at it.
So, yeah, so I think we need all that information before we can make
Okay.
a knowledgeable decision.
Okay, so it's going to get
So
postponed
I'm
regardless.
I'm gonna move to adjourn it
Okay.
for 60 days. That's whatever the December.
So I'll come up with those exact
13th?
measurements for a fence, and we'll decide whether we're going to go ahead with the survey as well.
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Tom.
Is the height elevation based on the highest point or the lowest point?
Probably for railings, the highest point.
Well, I mean, just for the height of the platform itself.
What was submitted was 12 inches, and then the neighbor came back and said that it was different.
12 inches on the one side.
Okay, so it was 12 inches, but all we have on our paperwork for the zoning application is 12 inches.
Right. I think what the board would want, Tony, is to show what it is on both ends so that the board has the complete information. If it's 12 inches at one end and it's, you
I
know, 2
did.
feet at the other.
I did write on there somewhere that it does go down to,
Yeah,
do you see it?
it's at the bottom of the second page.
Goes down to it.
Goes up, not down.
I would think it would go up.
Goes up, not down.
No, the height goes up because
Right.
the property
So
is
it says
sloped.
it's 2.5 feet to 3 feet on the other side.
I guess my only question is, if I was going to be doing the same thing and it was 1 foot on my side of the property line, but on my neighbor's side of the property line, it was 24 inches, you know, what are we viewing?
It's the same height from our garage out to the neighbors. It's the same height that way.
No, I'm
Changes on-
actually asking this of Lisa.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, and can you, it's the same, it's level and the ground slopes from the front of the
Yeah,
property to the back?
on my side of the property line, it's 12 inches. But on my neighbor's side, it's, let's say, 24 inches. What are we viewing? Is it the
If that
same
were-
or is it not relevant?
If that were the case, you would want to view what the what the impact would be to the neighboring property. But in this instance, I think what you're saying is that it slopes along the neighbor property. So at one portion of the neighbor's property, it's a foot, and at one portion of the neighbor's property along the same line, it's 2.5 to 3 feet. So the impact differs at different parts along the neighbor's property line.
Right, okay, thank you.
And Chrissy, did she contacts the building department? Can we have their input?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep, and you're gonna hold off on the fence too until after you get the survey, right? It's probably a good idea.
You want me to?
I mean, I
Okay.
would think it would be a good idea, because you don't want the fence to come back and be on.
Again,
not
if you
on
don't know
your
where the property line is,
Right.
Yep.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Did the shed have a, was it permitted, was there a variance for the shed?
The shed is 8 by 10, so it's
Oh.
under
So
100
it's
square feet.
6 feet, yeah.
So the shed is 6 feet from the property line?
When was this shed constructed?
Well, there was a shed there when we purchased the house.
Okay.
And that was torn down 6 years ago and instructed a vinyl one.
Okay, it's same size?
It's smaller than the other one.
Smaller than the other?
The other
I
one
would have to look at that, but.
I'm just saying, if that had been permitted in the 4.5 feet where it was accepted, or whatever it was, to put the shed there on the property line, that could set some precedent.
it used to be, for that size shed, it was 3 feet
Oh, was it? Okay. All right, so then
Depending on when it
that's
was-
something I'd have to look into and see when it was constructed.
Yeah.
But I will do that.
Okay, and then I'll make a motion to adjourn to December 13th for the applicant to decide whether she wants a survey and to speak, to meet with or speak with the building department.
Can I ask you a question first?
Yes.
Sure. Go ahead. Are they allowed to use this deck in the meantime?
They apparently have been.
The
There's nothing on it.
technical answer is no.
There's nothing on it. There was nothing on it when we were there Wednesday.
there's absolutely nothing on it right now.
So the
And we
answer is
haven't
no.
used it since August.
Well, particularly if it may need railings and it's not
That's right.
a safe structure at this juncture, I would think that the applicant should not be using it until it gets permits. A certificate of compliance would be what would need it, but that won't happen until the end of this process, so.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
All right. Any other discussion?
I'm done.
You still need a
What's-
second.
What's the adjournment date?
December 13th, 6 PM.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item number 7. This is 21 Stephanie Lane. Is there someone here? Come on up. Why don't you state your name?
Angelina Zabo.
Michael Zabo?
Mr. and Mrs. Zabo, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, why don't you describe what you want to do?
We're looking to put an 8-foot porch on the front of our house.
It's a covered porch.
Okay. And it's too close to the side lot line?
It is not going past our existing home, like it's not going any further, closer to the property line than our house already is.
And yes, the house is too close within 10 feet.
Okay. Christine?
No questions.
Art?
No questions.
Diane?
No question.
Tony S?
No questions.
Tony D?
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Simona?
No question.
Anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application? All right, there's no one in the audience, and I don't see anyone on Zoom, so I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Wait. Item number 7, 21 Stephanie Lane.
Will there be opportunity for public comment other than the list that I didn't see out there?
No, you can, the comments will only be on the items that are on the agenda tonight.
And where can I find the agenda?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's right at the corner.
One moment.
Maybe so. Definitely gave their neighbor
What are we waiting for? Yeah, I think so. Mr. Chairman, are we waiting for
And
this?
she's, yes. So if you did not get a notice of an application, you're probably not an aggrieved party, but take a look and see if there's any of the applications you want to comment on. This is item number 7.
Stewart Shops was already discussed.
I'm sorry?
Stewart Shops was already.
That was adjourned?
That was adjourned. to
Yes. November?
November, what, 20th?
If you look at the
November
first
8th.
agenda item,
Right on the bottom of the item number 1 where it says Stewart Shops, on the bottom it says adjourned till November 8th.
November 8th, okay. Other business?
Yes, if you have any comment about being, the planning board being the lead agency request for Wiltsey Estates.
Yes.
All right, then when we'll get to that, you can, I suppose, have a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item number 8. Vincent Talafiero?
I'm here on Zoom call.
Okay.
And I have a representative from the company who's there.
I'm sorry, could you speak up a little? Oh,
Yes, I'm on Zoom call. I'm not present. I have a representative from the company that's providing the generator who's currently at the meeting, Glenn Dingy.
Okay.
okay.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Okay, and what's your name?
Glenn Dingy.
Okay. All right, and you're here for Vincent Talafiero?
Correct.
Okay.
I also have my project manager on the Zoom call too, just in case there's any technical information you guys need.
Okay, and so why don't you describe this application?
On the property, for whatever reason, and I don't think this is normal, that's deemed to have 2 front yards.
That's pretty normal.
Is it? Okay.
We're very lucky here in this town.
Wow, that's nice. Anyway, his house was actually designed to be facing Empire Boulevard, if you know where Maple Knoll is. It was
It doesn't, it's because it's a corner lot,
correct.
so it doesn't really matter which way it faces.
Not in that instance, but the point being is that I don't know why they're qualifying that as the front yard when it's the side yard, really.
Because it faces a roadway.
Road, gotcha. Okay, that's why. But anyway, that's the house behind him. There's only 5 feet, and then the side yard is actually his yard where he has pool and
Okay.
all the other items. So that his meter, we did solar on his house too. So the meter, the generator, the shut-off box, the inverter is all in that same location. So that's basically the best location on his property for the generator.
Okay. Can you give me the dimensions of the generator?
4 by 2.
Okay. And let me ask you this, is gas, natural gas?
It's natural gas, correct.
Okay. How frequently does it come on to test?
Only when the power goes out.
There's
I mean,
no-
it could be 2 times a year, it could be once every 3 years.
No monthly testing?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, it does come on either once or twice a week, depending on how they program it. It runs for 5 or 10 minutes.
You have an idea about how loud it is?
So I have one in my house, which is literally directly across the street from here, luck have it. I don't barely hear it. I don't know how to describe it, but it's not loud at all. It's a very quiet motor.
Okay.
It would be similar to hearing like humming outside your window.
less than a lawnmower.
Oh, definitely.
All right, those are all the questions I have. Christine?
That was my question about the noise. so
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's it. No,
You-
that,
go
thank
ahead and
you for
ask it.
doing that.
All right,
You got me too. You got me on that too.
all right.
You're just so smart.
No question.
Diane. Tony S.?
No questions.
Tony D.?
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Simona?
No questions.
Anyone from the audience who wishes to comment on this? Anyone in Zoom?
If it's any help here at all, he is going to put up like a section of fence there just to, because it's literally facing the road and there's a lot of equipment there just for looks to kind of keep it out of the way, which would also help with some of the noise too. The noise will be muffled
Okay.
back towards his house. So he's going to do the best he can to make it presentable. He is.
How do you feel about vegetative screening rather than a fence?
That would be up to the homeowner.
Because you're going to need a variance or, well, unless it's less than 3.5 feet.
Unless it's less than 3.5 feet and 30, or 30 feet back from the
All right,
road.
so that may become an issue with another variance, like he
Yep.
couldn't just
Right.
put the
You can put a
fence.
fence there, but it could only be 3.5 feet high,
Gotcha.
okay? So
Okay.
my suggestion, and I probably would have put this as a condition anyway, that there be some vegetative screening
Bush,
rather
right,
than
gotcha. Makes more sense.
hard screening,
Gotcha.
all right?
Okay.
Okay. All right, I don't see anyone in the audience or anyone on Zoom, so I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Any of those in favor? Any discussion?
Oh.
All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? All
I
right,
do have a question, I'm sorry.
Who's that?
go ahead, Mr.
I'm sorry. So I cannot put up a barrier fence surrounding the utility lines and the, generator at
You can put up a fence,
3 feet?
but it can't be more than 3.5 feet, or you would need a variance.
Okay, so I'll have to go in and just submit an application for a fence, higher than 3.5 feet.
Well, I think it's likely that we're going to make a condition of approving it, that there be some vegetation screening. But if you want something different, then you would have to apply. If you want something higher than a 3.5-foot fence, then you would have to make an application for a variance. Are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm just thinking about the next step. So foliage, forage, planting is okay, that can be 8 feet when it grows, to 10
Correct.
feet when it grows.
Yes.
But it can't be a fence.
Correct.
But if I do, I would have to submit an application for a variance with the fence.
If it's more than 3.5 feet in height.
Although submit a fence permit regardless.
So that can be something that he can contact the zoning department
Yeah.
for follow-up if you still have questions.
Yep.
Because either case, it's not, it's application.
Right. Hey, anything else?
No.
Okay, then all those in favor signify by aye. All those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. All right, that brings us to item number 9, IBM water meter modification.
Hello, sorry about that.
Very nice.
Wow.
That was unusual.
This is Michelle Zer.
There's, so do you have two, are you signed in two?
I am, hold on.
So there's a lot of feedback.
Yes.
Hi, it's Michelle Zerfus from Berger Engineering. I can only get video, I got video on one and can show my screen on the other. So now I'm only on one.
Ms. Zerva, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? If you can put your video back on, but turn off the speakers, and then use whatever it is you're using.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Lost her.
Yep, she's gone.
You're back.
This is Michelle Zerfus of Berger Engineering.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Ms. Zervas, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
All right. Why don't you describe the application?
Okay, the application is for a small structure to house a water meter that's going to be within the 50-foot setback from Route 9. The purpose for the structure, the reason that this structure is being put in, there's an existing water meter. It's in an underground vault, which is right on the property line. The town, the Poughkeepsie Water Department, has asked that the meters be taken out of the underground vault and put into an above-ground structure. The vault is a confined space and fills with water, which makes it harder for the planning board, or it makes it harder for the water department to service the meter. The structure is going to be right next to an existing structure of similar size, color. The proposed structure is 7.7 feet wide, 16.4 feet long, and 8.3 feet high. And it's going to be 18 feet from the property line. It's also, the slab's going to be about 18 feet below Route 9. So the top is about 10 feet below Route 9. It's within that corridor. And that is the purpose for the variance.
All right. And how do you access that structure?
Right now there's a small existing service road off of the IBM road. We're going to be improving that and making that a little bit more accessible. The town has asked us to do that as well. But that access will be from IBM road where it's closer to grade.
Okay. I don't have any questions. Christine?
No questions.
All right.
No questions.
Diane?
No.
Tony S.
Just a comment. Basically, this, having read through the application, what you're really trying to do here is eliminate the confined space hazard by relocating the water meter to the surface, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Tony D.
No questions.
Larry?
No questions.
Simona?
No questions.
Okay. Anyone from the audience who wishes to comment on this application? All right. There's no one in the audience. I don't see anyone on Zoom.
There's only one person on the phone. That would be *6 if you need to unmute yourself.
All right. Hearing nothing, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. That brings us to item 10. Taco Bell at Neptune, well, Taco Bell. Is someone, okay. Just state your
Good
name.
evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Dave Kaminsky.
Mr.
I represent
I'm sorry.
Neptune Capital Investors.
Mr. Kaminsky, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Before you begin, was there a response from the county on this? Yes?
No, did we get a response from the county? No. No response.
Okay, but
Yet.
they were notified?
Yes.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I want to bring you a few exhibits to show you the existing condition. Several years ago, this board voted for various variances for the Hardee's that was originally constructed on the site. The most important thing that I wanted to show the board is this existing structure, this metal structure with the star in the front of the building, what is considered the front of the building, but is actually the south-facing elevation, will be eliminated. That will be taken off the building. This board granted 3 additional signage variances originally several years ago. There was a Hardee's sign on this element here, on the frontage, facing Route 9. There was a sign on the main elevation of the tower that was here. And then along the side of the building, there was a sign that said charcoal broiled hamburgers. We are here this evening for approval for a single additional sign to be mounted on a new Taco Bell. This is the elevation that will face Route 9. There is an entrance here with an entrance element. The single Taco Bell is 14 square feet in size. That is the permitted sign under the ordinance. That same south-facing elevation, when I say south-facing, I can refer to it as the elevation that faces the Dunkin' Donuts and the main driveway into our project. It's shown here. We are seeking a variance for an additional Taco Bell sign, which has their name and the bell, and it is a total of 28 square feet. So it is a total of 41 square feet, but the variance is for a single additional sign on the building. Thank you.
Okay, and you understand we have to wait for the county's response on this?
I didn't know that we didn't have it.
Okay, so
Okay.
I don't think we can vote on it tonight, but Christine, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Art?
Yeah. The last sign you showed us facing Dunkin' Donuts. You said that's where Hardee's actually had a sign previously in that same.
Yeah,
order?
so the previous.
That's okay. You don't have to bring it back up.
No, that's all right. Take 2 seconds.
So it was the same
So,
corner, same elevation.
They had a Taco Bell sign here,
Or
in
Hardee's.
addition to this
The Hardee's
major
sign.
thing with the,
Hardee's
excuse
sign.
me, they had a Hardee's sign on that elevation.
I just
Yeah.
don't remember that. We
Yeah.
granted that. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So Mr. Chairman, if the county was notified, they had their appropriate time to respond, and they haven't responded. As far as I understand, they do not have a right to now.
I don't think they had their full
Comment.
30 days yet,
Aha.
because I don't know when the application came in, but typically there's only 3 weeks from submittal date too, so they probably still have a few days left,
Okay.
even though we're.
So does that mean we appear next month again? Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
But I'm going to ask if there's anyone from the audience who wishes to have a comment on this application. There's no one in the audience, and I don't see any response in the Zoom verse.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one more question.
Go ahead.
I know you love it when I do this. The small pedestal sign, if you will, there's a sign about in front of Dunkin' Donuts on Route 9, right? Will they be on that as well?
So there are 2 different pylon signs that are along the Route 9 frontage. One is the Dunkin' Donuts pylon sign.
Okay.
The other sign is our sign, which we no longer own the Dunkin' Donuts parcel.
Okay.
Our sign is located right adjacent to where the Taco Bell will be.
So
There was previously a Hardee's at the very top of the sign. It now says for lease. That will become the Taco Bell signage.
Okay.
And the 3 remaining signage, signs below on that pylon will remain.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Then I'll move to adjourn this to November 8th.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Then
Thank
that
you.
Okay, see you next month. That brings us to 33 Kinderhook Drive, number 11. Okay, you want to state your names, please?
Ciro Interati, architect for the project.
Stacy Torres. My fiance is also the iPhone up there.
Okay.
Matthew Cohen. Okay. Do you all affirm or swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what do you want to do?
The owner is proposing to build a garage on the right side of their house, extending out 14 feet from the side of the house. There will be a garage on the first floor and a bedroom on the second floor. The zoning ordinance requires a 100-foot minimum width for a property, but most of the properties in that development are all 75 feet wide, which sort of, puts a little bit of a complication or hardship on trying to build something on the side of a house and still stay within the 20-foot setback. The house, this is the existing house. The garage would be built on the right side of the house, and on this aerial photograph, it would be on the right side of the house. If you look at the survey map on the left side of the drawing, the driveway would be extended on the left side, or the right side of the house. If the project were built on the left side, it would still require variance because that's the same distance as exists on the right side of the house. It would be a two-story project. The additional bedroom on the second floor is for Stacy's mom. We haven't developed any architectural drawings for it yet. We're waiting to see if we get the approval for the variance.
Okay. And it's a one-car garage?
It's a one-car garage, yes.
Okay. I noticed on the drawing the width of the driveway.
Yes.
How wide is the widest part of the driveway?
I don't have my scale with me. I'm guessing it's about 20 feet.
How many?
20?
20 feet?
Approximately.
Okay. So we have a limit of 15 feet.
Yeah, you're extending the driveway too?
The driveway limit is 15 feet? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's existing. It's an existing driveway. So I
It's
guess we would-
existing at 20 feet?
It's existing. I didn't measure it.
Well, are you?
As long as you're not extending it then.
We're not extending the driveway, no.
Okay.
That's existing.
Okay. And I noticed in the neighborhood there's at least one other similar project that has a garage on the side.
yeah.
The mass, we're not, it's a two-story house, so the addition would be 2 stories. We're not significantly, affecting the mass or scale of the house. It would still look appropriate to the neighborhood.
Okay. Christine?
No questions.
Art?
Question. This is very small, very hard to read, but where your right hand is, just above your thumb. If my eyes would work, that'd be okay. So it almost appears that the driveway is pretty much in front of that bay window. Is that correct?
Partially, yes.
Yeah.
And how far to the right does that go? Does that go far enough to accept a
How
garage door?
far to the right does the addition go?
No, the driveway, because
The driveway.
where it stops now, it won't get you into the garage, will it? Once you add the garage to the side of that house, won't that
Oh,
driveway
yeah, I
be
guess,
shy?
I guess we would be adding this piece right in here.
You're gonna have to slide either that or take a part of the existing driveway off to make up the 15 feet, correct?
We could talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, that's
We could talk about that with the owner.
Because it would be over the required.
You're basically saying just shifting this driveway to the
Well,
right.
if you don't add something to the right, you're gonna be driving across the yard, the lawn or whatever's
Right.
there to get to a garage.
We can,
Yeah,
if
we
you want, you
can-
can make that a condition of the approval.
I'm just bringing that up because it will be wider than acceptable.
Yeah, we can, like I said, you can make that a condition of the approval if you want, and we'll,
Okay,
we'll
thank you.
remove some of this driveway and add it over here.
Thanks.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yes.
So what?
Diane?
No questions.
Tony S?
No questions.
Tony D?
You good?
Larry?
I'm good.
Simona?
No questions.
Anyone from the audience who wishes to comment on this application? I don't see anyone in the audience, and no one's left on Zoom, so I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay, so you can either wait for the end of the meeting for our deliberation to find out, or you can call the zoning administrator in the morning.
We're the last applicant, correct?
You are typically, who's ever here, we do that one first. So if you want to wait,
Okay, well, we'll go outside and discuss it, and maybe we'll wait, okay?
okay. If you're here when we start deliberating, then we'll let you know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's all right. So under other business, there's a request from the planning board to be lead agency on the Wilsey Estates. Is there anyone from the audience who wishes to comment on this? Come on out.
Hi, zoning board, everybody.
You can state your name.
Michelle.
Michelle?
Michelle.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
And what would you like to comment about the planning board being the lead agency in examining the Wilsey Estates project?
Okay, I understand that it's inclusive of utilities, right? Telecommunications utilities?
I don't know what the proposal is. This is just a request to have them as lead agency to do the environmental background check.
Okay, so I'm going to be speaking to that as part of an effort to educate zoning boards and town planning boards about that matter.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm going to limit you
So
to 3 minutes.
I'm going to do my best to squeeze it all in.
Okay.
So in that, the town of Poughkeepsie should be assured that minimum power required for the telecommunications utilities will be delivered. So it is the federal 1934 Communications Act requires the minimum power necessary for the communication, while the legislative purpose of that act and its amendment, the TCA of 1996, is to promote the safety of life and property, end quote. That is your duty. Per the Public Health Service Amendment Act Amendment 354, quote, the Congress hereby declares that the public health and safety must be protected from electronic product radiation, end quote. And per the USDC Court of Appeals decision of 8/13/2021, the FCC has acted in an arbitrary and capricious manner, those are quotes, that lacks reasoned explanation in deciding to close and ignore public inquiry that had manifested vast and profound scientific conclusions. The FCC proved that it had applied neither scientific evidence nor reasoning in arbitrarily extending its guidelines from 6 gigahertz to 100 gigahertz. The court said such FCC positions would harm, that's a quote, both public health and the environment. The decision rendered all wireless facilities transmitting at frequencies above 6 gigahertz unlawful and requiring cessation. So what I have to say tonight is I understand that the town has drafted ordinances to bar vaping and smoking marijuana on municipal property. I get it. You regard it as a hazard, albeit used by the most anxious, depressed, and sick nation in the world, a nation with the highest allowable levels of RF microwave radiation standards in the world. And we deny people the use of this sedative, okay? Exploding marijuana use may be anecdotal to our lax FCC guidelines on RF microwave radiation, but I think not. The WHO, the World Health Organization, regards secondhand smoke as a Class 2B carcinogen, asbestos as a Class 2B carcinogen, and wireless microwave radiation is a Class 2B carcinogen. Hold that thought. On municipal grounds, there are stealth towers emitting hazardous materials on government workers on the same order of asbestos. Our city council is allowing, not you guys, but is allowing innovation zones the permission to spray its residents in black and brown communities with asbestos in the 100 gigahertz range as part of a wireless broadband test bed. I'm almost done. So do we care about health and safety really? Then when COVID, a health crisis, we dropped the education of our children, we dismissed our economy, we dismissed the importance of families to be at the bedside of dying family members, we dismiss our bodily sovereignty, yet we continue to irradiate the laps of our children with Chromebooks and their brains with overhead wireless routers in every classroom. So these are major holes or blind spots in our thinking about health and safety. What is governing our focus?
Michelle?
Something doesn't make sense.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, something doesn't make sense. We need a moratorium, okay, on unnecessary and overbearing wireless deployment.
Right, but
So that's how it
doesn't
connects.
actually relate to anything about this application.
Oh, it does, because they're gonna have telecommunications utilities on this subdivision.
Okay.
And so, you know,
Then, when we vote to have planning board as the lead agency, you can speak with them.
and when will that be?
We're going to vote tonight that we consent to them being the lead agency in the seeker review of the application
And when would the public be able to provide comment,
at their planning board meetings.
which is when?
I don't know.
Not this, it's not on the agenda this month, so it's probably next month.
Okay, I'll be there, I'll try to be there. Thank you, everybody, thank you for hearing me out, and this is an exploding issue. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move for a short adjournment of 10 minutes.
Do you want to move on the lead agency first?
Sure. I move to consent to the planning board being lead agency on Wiltse Estates lot number 19 subdivision.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor signify by aye.
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 All right,
Are
are
there
you
any-
kidding? We're just breaking.
What?
All those in favor signify by aye.
I don't think that was directed to us.
Any opposed? Aye, that motion carries. Okay.
So we're adjourned?
Now I make a motion to adjourn for 10 minutes.
To, not adjourn, to
To,
Break.
take a break.
to break a break, yeah. For 10 minutes. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? You can go ahead. All right, that carries.
I thought this was gonna be a lot sooner. I thought this was gonna be a lot faster than tonight. Holy shit. No, now we're in deliberation. That should take 20 minutes. Well, I'm coming up and crashing.
Okay, it's 8 PM, we're back in session. So, let's see. What number were you? 3?
Who's 3?
Okay, so, let's see. Number 3 is 10 Cardinal Drive. So, the applicant provided some additional information about other similarly situated, or what he alleged were similarly situated fences. I think we went out and checked on that. Most of them didn't have variances or weren't there. There was only one that was perhaps, I think, similar enough. But here's what I would be willing to do. We have a diagram that shows, has some red lines on it where this fence would be moved back farther away from Peacock Lane. If the applicant, I would be okay with that if there was a change in the fencing to some semi-private style, and some screening along Peacock Lane and a little bit along Cardinal Drive and just on the corner there. To avoid that, really the compounding effect of that fencing, I think that's the only way to really avoid it. What does everybody feel about that? Christine?
I think that would be good. I think that the fencing would help, or the screening would help. But are you saying to move the fence, like behind those big trees?
Yeah, so here I have in my packet, do you want to pass that?
Okay, I think I have that too.
Okay. So where the red line is?
Yep.
Okay, so we would make that, I would suggest that that's where the fence gets moved to. That's part of the record, and they have to comply with that. To substitute that portion of the fence to be semi-private and some sort of screening along Peacock Lane and at least around the corner of Cardinal Drive.
Mr. Chair, when you say that portion of the fence will be semi-private, are you talking about the fence only along Peacock?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And, yeah. So as I recall, it should be 1.5 panels that would get removed from the Cardinal Drive side and then straight across. Is that about right?
Why wouldn't you put it back the same distance all the way back?
I think it's just the way the lot line goes. So I don't recall about on the other side, on the neighbor side, whether that's 1.5.
This is 5 feet on this side and 10 feet over here. This is yours. Oh, you have another one.
Yeah.
It's got more.
We got plenty.
So I don't recall whether it was square or not, but the impact on the going down Peacock Lane is kind of minimized as you go farther down the road, so I don't have any problem with that. What are your concerns?
My concern is that I think this fence should go back to where it was.
Diane?
I'm okay, I'm okay with your suggestion.
Tony? You see, okay,
The
so you have
suggestion is to just move it from 5 feet from the road to property
the
line
same,
to 10
yeah,
feet?
it's the same thing. So on the, here it's 10 feet from the property line.
Right.
And there it's 5 feet from the property line, so we're just gonna move it back. There's a line of trees along Peacock Lane, and then there's some other trees, so it'll be in between those two trees. Tony D., you have any comment?
Just to clarify, how far inside that line of trees are we going?
Wherever, as I recall, it was 1.5 sections, right?
I think so.
Yeah. And then wherever they have to, along that tree line. So it'll be behind the tree line.
Inside the tree line?
Correct, correct.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Larry? Larry, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay. Any comments?
How does this compare to the original, building permit?
So it's farther away from the house than the original application that wasn't built that way, but it's farther away from Peacock Lane than it is now. So it's still within the front yard, but it's set back. Larry?
Yeah, so I'm talking about the original building.
The one that, okay, the application that they made that wasn't followed?
Right.
Okay, so it encroaches on, it's in the front yard. So, but it's moved back from where it is now.
How far back from that?
Well, it says 10 feet from the property line, so if you recall where that tree line is, it's behind that. And my recollection was it was 1.5 sections of fencing on the corner of Cardinal and Peacock.
The other thing you mentioned was that the fencing be more semi-private, but the zoning administrator said the pictures or whatever she saw didn't look like that was much of a difference.
Yeah, I think it will help anyway, though. And it appears the applicant's willing to do that, so.
Said the space.
Anything else, Larry?
Not right now, no.
Okay. Simona?
It's a good I think it's a good compromise. I don't have any questions or comments beyond what has been discussed.
Okay.
Just for clarity, you mentioned screening along Peacock Lane and around the corner. You're talking about some like low bush planting?
Nice arborvitae or something like that, yeah.
It's got, because there's other trees there now. So
There are
something
trees
that'll
there, but
grow.
there are, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
beneath that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you going to specify any height of the plantings, either at planting or at?
No, they don't
maturity?
have to, just some, I don't think it's necessary
To
to
break
plant.
up the look of the fence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just something to break it up a little bit.
Okay.
All right, any other comments? Then let me offer these findings. Whether an undesirable change will reduce in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. It currently exists an imposing structure on a corner lot, but with a change in design, with the semi-private, and moving back from where it is now, I think that will minimize the effect on the neighborhood. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance, based upon the desire of the applicant, an area variance is required. Whether area variance is substantial, it's substantial in the sense that fences are not allowed in the front yard, but by moving this back a little bit and the fencing, I think this will reduce the impact on the environment. There will be no environmental or physical impact on the environment, and this is of course, self-created, but that's not a reason to deny the application. And so I would offer those findings. So, Christine, you want to make a motion?
I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item number 3. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings as set forth by the chair. And that would include having screening of plantings along the fence at Peacock Lane.
And that the fence be a semi-private fence, and that it be moved back to the red drawing as shown on the materials submitted by the applicant.
Okay, that the fence be moved back?
That's okay. You can
Okay,
say
you're
so.
okay,
Yeah.
what Lisa
And
just said.
Tony, yes, you'll be voting on this, and I think Simona, you will not be, if I did my math right.
I just have a question. Are we specifying where exactly you want the plantings and where you want it to be semi-private?
I think they don't have to replace all the fencing. The fence that does get replaced along Peacock Lane, I think that should be semi-private. And they should just do some plantings to break it up a little bit and make it
Okay. Around the entire thing?
just down Peacock Lane and on a corner a little bit on the.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is there an industry standard for what's considered semi-private?
No, but I think the applicant had a conversation with Chrissy, and I think that,
The semi-private is basically the same fence, but spaced out panels.
I think actually semi-private is a sort of standard fence where the slats are just set slightly far apart so you can see a little bit through them, but not entirely. So I think it's what you would purchase ready-made from a fencing company if you ask for semi-private fencing.
But is that what's being done, or are you just moving the fences apart from each other?
No, it's an actual type of fence slat.
Okay.
So it's a section of fencing that's classified as semi-private.
Okay.
I only know that because I've been fence shopping.
okay. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Tony, but you're muted. Tony?
Sorry. Yeah, I know this may seem a little redundant, but plantings to be on the exterior of the fence wall, not the interior of the fence wall, to create, a semi-private environment.
Okay, so the planting should be on the outside?
I would think so.
I would think so, too. Okay?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Diane, you second that? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One opposed? Okay. So that passes 6-0.
Passes 6-1.
6-1, sorry.
Nice try.
Okay. All right. Art.
Art voted no.
He raised his hand, he didn't say anything.
All right, and you're done. You guys are, okay.
Thank you so much. We appreciate everything you guys.
And that should be done by Friday, right?
Just call me in the morning, because we'll have to resubmit.
Okay. And you guys are number 11? Okay. 33 Kinderhook Drive.
Get a phone call from the homeowner, and he went out and measured the existing driveway, and it's 17 feet. So we're willing to shift it and not go beyond the 20 feet.
Okay. I mean, if it's pre-existing, then that's fine. You just might have to get a curb cut permit from the highway department.
No, they're going to need to put in additional driveway to the right. And
Right.
if they were to do that, then it would be wider than the 15 feet. So what
Oh,
needs
would
to
be
happen is,
wider.
yeah, so what needs to
They're not
happen. Right, it would come off the left side of the driveway and be moved to the right side so either you're going to need to be no wider than 15 feet or arguably what's there now, but probably not. Then that's something we can have a discussion with Chrissy in the morning.
Okay,
Otherwise,
so-
you'd need to come.
Yeah,
So
my suggestion would
moving
just
it,
be
it would
that
have to go
that the
back down
driveway
15 feet.
comport with the code.
Right.
Okay.
And the garage, I believe, is 14 feet wide anyway. Is that correct? The garage, I believe, was 14 feet wide in any case? Yeah, so I mean, you know, the driveway will be approximately the same width as the garage, and that would make a lot of sense.
Is this an open discussion?
Yeah, I guess it's not. You're right,
No.
Tony. Good point.
Okay, so any have any concerns about this one?
Which one?
There's a question.
Number 11.
You mean
Okay.
Anyone have any concerns?
So,
No.
well,
Okay, and Simona, you can vote on this one.
Paul,
Yes.
he's asking now to make it 2 cars wide, so how quickly, what's
Well,
the
I would
2
make
cars?
a condition that it comport with the code, which is 15 feet. If he wants to make it 2 cars wide, he has to get a
Come back.
variance.
Go back, okay. Just want to be sure.
Okay. All right, so I would offer these findings: whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. This is consistent with other neighborhood houses and the area. Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Based upon the lot size and the position of the house, nothing else is feasible to obtain which doesn't require an area variance. And whether this requested area variance is substantial, mathematically it is, but based again upon the size of the lot and the position of the sitting of the house, it does not encroach any. It does not have a significant effect. And whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district, there does not appear to be any physical or environmental conditions which would be affected by this application. And while the difficulty was self-created, that's not a reason to deny the application, and I would offer those. Art, are you okay making a
Sure.
motion?
I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item 11. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts its findings so set forth by the chair and amended to the maximum of a 15-foot width driveway.
Yeah, just that it comports with the code, but yeah.
Second.
All right, any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, then that motion carries 7-0. All right, so that brings us to, okay, good luck.
The only other person that's on is Michelle Zerfus from
Okay,
IBM,
that's
which is
IBM?
number 9.
All right, does anyone have any concerns about this one?
Which one?
Oh, I'm sorry, number 9.
And there's a staff report for this one.
This is listed on the agenda as an unlisted action, but I think it's
type
properly a
2.
type 2,
Yeah.
right?
And
Yes.
that's what the staff report indicates as
Okay.
well.
I thought the agenda got updated to be a type 2.
It was supposed to, but it did not, I guess.
It
Oh, it
did.
did? Oh, that
Yeah.
one. Okay, so we just have
The one that came in the packet is not updated, obviously, because it came in the packet, but the actual,
Okay.
the agenda's been updated.
Makes sense.
All right, anyone have any concerns about this one?
No concerns.
Okay.
You can't see it from anywhere.
Yeah.
It was there.
And it's kind of necessary, and there's no other
Yeah.
way to do it.
I wonder why they didn't combine the 2 buildings into one.
I don't know what that other building is for.
I'm not sure. No, I never even knew it was there, and I've lived here a long time.
Yeah. It could be the underground storage for the nukes, but.
Maybe that's where they buried all.
Okay, Diane, do you mind making a motion?
And
You're going to use the staff report, so, as findings for number
Okay.
9.
And this is
And
number 9.
Tony, yes, you'll be voting on this one?
Okay.
So I
And
move.
Simona, you will not be.
I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item number 9. This decision's based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and result of staff report. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings as set forth by the staff report. So moved.
Second. All right, any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, then that motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Good luck. That brings us to the top of the agenda. So number 2, Chipotle. So, why don't we take a straw poll about who's in favor of the application? So, and that
Looks like just me, huh?
is, and
Mr. Chair, who's voting on this one?
how about, Tony, you vote on odd ones, and Simona, you vote on even ones. Okay? All right, so is anybody other than Art in favor of this application? Simona, you are, but you're muted, so.
Yes,
that doesn't-
I am.
Okay. And help me understand why, Art.
Okay. There's a couple things. Right. To the best of my knowledge, and I may be wrong, but I believe that this construction started prior to the town's decision not to allow these signs. So that-
I think that's correct.
So that puts the developer and the person that's leasing Chipotle at a great disadvantage, because they came in there under the understanding that they would have this sign.
That's incorrect.
That what I'm
Factually
told.
incorrect. I mean, yes, timing-wise, that's right, but the lack of a sign regulation was something that was known by the developer at the same time as it was known, as with all of us. They chose not to propose something, so we did, ultimately, in the end, and they were part of that process. I think the town board, recently adopted this. It properly, in my mind, should go to the town board if they want to change it. But this will be precedent for every other application that comes before the board. So, that's the only other thing I would say about it. The town board made corrections on the developer's behalf at the last minute when they adopted the sign regulations. This was not something that they requested or questioned at that time.
Do we know how many buildings will have Route 9 frontage that would be affecting that, and also that would not have an ability to, I understand that there are some buildings that get signage because they have road frontage, and then others that get...
The only building that will have a publicly assessed, to my knowledge at this point, we haven't reviewed all of the buildings yet, but there's one that will have a public entrance facing Route 9. That one is yet to be built. That will be a CVS. But all of the other buildings, their public entrances, to my knowledge, will either face Winslow Gate Road, which is the main street, or they may have secondary entrances if they're like a corner building, where they might have a side entrance as well.
But are there only 2 buildings right now? Or
Well, no, there's several buildings on that side of Winslow Gate Road that are proposed. We haven't done architectural review for all of them yet, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So they would potentially not have an entrance on the Route 9 side, and
Most of them will not have entrances.
I don't think you can limit it to just that application. I think that every applicant who wants an additional sign that's not currently permitted, regardless of whether it's frontage on Route 9 or some other impediment to them getting as many signs as they want, are going to want more signs. And I think that the town, because this is a new development, the town, everyone's in the same situation. So I think the town decided that's what they want to do, and I don't think there's a good reason yet to to diverge from that.
How does this differ from Taco Bell?
Because that part of Route 9 has already been developed, that already had signage on it, there's nothing changing there. I think this is an opportunity to get away from all the signage. I'm not particularly convinced that in this particular walking community setup, that signs to attract Route 9 patronage is really realistic. I'm not convinced that the benefit there to the applicant for whatever long-term increase in patronage from signage on Route 9 outweighs everything else that the town planned for that project. If the town wants to revisit it, they can certainly do that, but I don't think that we need to rewrite the town code at this point.
Did the town, what was there, I mean, I'm thankful that they said yes to something where the main street of it is not Route 9. I think it's a blessing for my eyes and all of our eyes. And so they clearly saw that as an asset to the community and put it into the zoning or into the plan. And then the fact that they said no signage on the Route 9 side, which is 250 feet from Route 9, I mean, it's another way of protecting the public from having to be bombarded with signage because it is a community with a main street in it that is not Route 9. So, which is back to where you were saying that they were aware of this when they went in, and part of the benefit is this nice layout of an internal street. So, and the distance is so far. I mean, it really, I don't think I can't fathom how it could make any difference in business.
Tony, do you have a comment?
I do. Tony D or Tony S?
Tony D.
Okay. I do have a few comments. I understand all the rules we put in place to minimize, excessive, whatever onto our day-to-day living, but because of this unique situation, and I think that the signage that they're requesting is very minimal compared to the distance they are from Route 9. As a business owner and somebody who wants to promote business in the area, I think this is a very reasonable request, and I think that this should be granted because it's an exercise in inviting more business into our area and to promote it for the wonderful area that it is. And there's a lot of area to be developed. Doesn't have to be developed in a wild way, but it has to be developed in a sensible way. And I think some of those ways have to be considered moving forward instead of looking backward. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Simona?
I agree with a lot of what Tony just said, but I also feel that, and I recognize that this sets a precedent for every other business. And even if it didn't, we would probably, could anticipate being in the situation many times in the future. Even if we were to deny this variance, I think if we approve it, we have the opportunity to set a precedent that's reasonable. And then this becomes the standard for what we would be okay with. I understand the chairman's reservations about, rewriting the town code, but I do feel that the size of the sign is unimposing, and there is a case to be made that it would be not just about attracting business, but actually about finding, if you know you're going to Chipotle, to find Chipotle. I think the monument's insufficient, and I think the signage facing the road, I think there's a reasonable argument to be made that it's necessary.
Okay. Christine?
They're both such valid arguments. I'm really, really thinking about this. I mean, I tend to think that the small sign would be helpful, but at the same time, as has been pointed out, this is a brand-new law, and it should have been, you know, this is a brand-new area, a brand-new district, and I'm not sure at this moment. Yes,
Okay.
Larry.
All right. Larry?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the gentleman himself acknowledged that most of the benefit to be derived from this would be in the beginning, and after a while, people would just know that it's there. And secondly, again, also, as other people have said, usually the things we deal with are like variances to things that happened a long time ago. This was just done. I mean, I don't know if the town board, if there's any discussions similar to the ones we're having here before the town board, but this was just done. It seems, you know, we'll always be making, you know, an exception.
Okay. And I'd remind everyone that I think the county denied this application, so we need a supermajority to approve the variance.
Can I, you did, was it, who was it that brought up a temporary sign? Somebody
I'm
mentioned.
very, no, I didn't.
But I mean, if it is a split decision or close to it or whatever, and there's discomfort with it, I mean, as long as there's surveillance of it, I mean,
There are rules in our signage code about temporary signage. I mean, they could.
Yeah, it's only good for 3 months out of the year.
but I mean, 3 months are really when people are going to find
Yeah.
out it's there. I mean, and if.
That is an option for them. I mean, that they would apply through the zoning department for that. Yeah.
Well, but it also, if this board were inclined, they could grant a variance to allow a temporary sign, perhaps for 6 months, of the size designed by I mean, it's actually a variance application, so it would be, I mean, it's been noticed to allow a permanent sign, but I don't think anybody would, you know, find fault if the board wanted to go that way and allow a temporary sign for some period of time, or they could go through the temporary sign process.
Then we'd be in a position, though, if they don't want to take it down to.
Right, then what do you do?
Then we
I
have
don't think
to.
a temporary
I mean,
sign of that size is very,
You know,
Not gonna
one
go
of the
very
things that
far.
Larry brought up, though, that concerns me a little bit too, is that. Hello, that once people know the business is there, they don't need the sign. Well, that should be the same for any business along Route 9. Once you know that Burlington's there, you take your sign down. Once you know that Joe Blow and Company's there, you take your sign down. What's
I'm
the
sure
difference?
they'll all get temporary signs anyway.
Right. But
They actually
you
do,
know,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think what would help too is that we
Yep.
had actually enforced the thou shalt turn off the lights on the signs at night, and make it very much less intrusive. You know,
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Yes,
Tony D?
Tony D.
Okay. You know, it's really interesting because we have so many ideas of how we want to grow forward. And that's great, and we think we have all the great visions. But then something like the Hudson Valley Psych Center comes and disappears and all of a sudden reimagines itself. And it reimagines itself in a way that, you know, some real visionaries see it, and it almost makes us, we have to re-envision it really quickly. And I think some of our previous ideas have to be reimagined very quickly. And because of distance, elevation, whatever it may be, I think this one really deserves a great reimagining.
Okay, but I don't know it's our role to reimagine it. Our role is really just to balance the benefit to the, I think you're muted, Tony. If you're yelling at me, you're muted.
I don't know about reimagining, I just mean, things happen quicker than we expect, and I think this one definitely did.
You don't think the town had a reason to choose to go the way they went with that decision? To not allow signage on Route 9?
I think, Tony, she's asking you. Tony D.
Sorry.
What's that?
Do you not believe that the town had a reason for choosing carefully not to put the signage on Route 9 and in this development?
I don't think we had the whole topography of this development, and I really don't think this this request is unreasonable compared, based on where it is off of Route 9, whether it be elevation or whatever. I don't think it's unreasonable.
Well, just to be clear, though, I think the town board definitely knew what the project was going to look like in great detail when they reviewed this. It was only 4 months ago, so there's not really, what's happening there is not changed. So I think the town board did have the information, and for whatever reason chose, to go with the ordinance as it currently exists. And I think that's, to me, that's probably the most important reason at this point to say it should be a town board. It should be a town board making that choice. If they think the law is wrong, they should amend it. That would be a discussion for them to have. But, I mean, do we want to, the first application out of the gate, say, oh, now we think you made a mistake and we're going to change it? I mean, I think there's a question about what the role of a ZBA is, and I think this is one of those kinds of questions that we should be considering.
Yeah, I think that's correct, that it's not our role to rewrite the code. It's to balance the benefit to the applicant against the impact on the neighborhood. And I don't see the benefit to the applicant outweighing the impact.
It's also not unique to this application, because it will be every other application that comes from that.
Well, in this instance, unless someone else on the board is going to change their mind one way or the other, if you put it to a vote, it loses. So I don't know that you need to debate the issue more because we have the county. In a normal situation, we have 3-3 and then Christine could be the swing vote. But since we need 5, it doesn't sound like either side is going to.
Right, but I'm still, I could be, maybe somebody else could be moved, but in any
You
case.
need 5 for this, though. That's because the county opposed this, is that what it is?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so you need a super majority?
Correct.
So the town board opposes it, the county opposes it,
The county opposes everything, just about,
Well,
but
if you look back at their.
But that's a lot of voices.
so Tony D., I'm going to ask you to make the motion.
Am I not muted?
Yes.
Okay, I take that as I am not muted. I would move that the board approve the motion this is item number, I'm sorry.
2. Item 2.
2? To approve the.
I'm going to stop you for just a second. I think we have to do a short form.
Oh, yes, thank you, there's an unlisted action. So first item would be seeker, yeah?
Yeah, so I move that to make the zoning board of appeals lead agency on this.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? That motion carries. And based upon the short form, assessment form, I move that for a determination of non-significance. Is that correct?
Second.
Pretty close, okay. All right, any discussion on that one? Then all those in favor signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. I have the one dated August 9th. Did you make another one?
I did not. no.
Okay, then I'll just,
Yeah, that's
okay.
fine.
All right, now, Tony D., you can go ahead.
Okay, I move that the board approve the request for the area bounds variance set forth in item number 2. This decision is based on the review of the application, the testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of the site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings as set forth. Is it by the chair?
No, I think you can take the staff report.
Staff reports in this case. So moved.
Is there a
I'll let
second?
you get
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let you get a second, and then I have a question also.
I have a question.
Who's the second to the motion?
I didn't second it. I got
You need a
question.
second.
Oh, well. Simone, you want to second this?
Second.
Okay. And what's your question?
My question is, doesn't the staff report say it's not a problem?
On the second part of it, I think it says that,
It's up to-
however,
Yeah, it's deciding whether or not to grant the variance, the board should consider the benefit of the applicant versus the.
Okay.
And my only comment in item 3, whether it's substantial, it says that it's doubling the number of wall signs, but I think it's going from 2 signs to 3 signs, so I don't know that that's,
I think when you looked at that, there was only one sign that was as of right. Is that right?
right,
2
so
signs.
it's actually 2 signs are allowed and permitted, and they're asking for a
Right.
3rd. So it's technically not doubling the wall sign. So with that amendment, we can take the staff report.
Okay.
All right, and then, so we'll do now there's been a motion and a second.
Another question. If
Go ahead.
that's written incorrectly, does the county know that it's written incorrectly?
They didn't read this. They
It
don't
would
get
not
this-
have
They don't
been-
get our staff.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do a roll call. Diane?
This
So you're
would be-
voting yes or yes
Wait.
to grant it or no to deny it?
No.
Okay. All right, so let me. All right, Tony D?
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
It's me, I'm a no. Art?
Yes.
Larry?
No.
Christine?
No.
And Simone?
Yes.
Simona, yes.
Yes.
All right, so the motion fails. I have it 3-4, and we needed a supermajority, and so that motion fails. All right, that brings us to number 4, 58 Van Wagner Road. How does everyone feel about this one? Anyone concerned about this one? This is the carport in the very tiny lot that used to somehow have a house on it. Any concerns? And is there something in planning about something just down the street on Van Wagner Road for a vehicle repair place, or?
Oh, yeah, yeah, just, that's on the planning board agenda for Thursday night.
Okay, all right. Anyone else have any concerns? This is an even one, so Simona, you'll be voting. All right, then I would offer these findings. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created in the granting of the variance. This is a very built-up, dead-end street and will have little impact on the character of the neighborhood. Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance based upon the size of the lot It's very narrow, and the topography, any placement of anything would require an area variance. And whether the requested area variance is substantial, it's yes, because the structure is not allowed in the front yard, but I think that the impact will be kind of minimal. And I don't see any physical or environmental effects from the granting the variance. And this was, of course, self-created, but that's not a reason to deny the application, and I would make those findings. I would offer those findings. So, let's see. Larry, do you mind making this motion?
Sure. I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item number 4. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, results of site visits by board members, and the staff report. In approving this variance, the board adopts its findings. I'm sorry, the determinations found in items 1 through 5 of the staff report.
Why don't you do the ones that I said?
Which is,
Stick the ones from the chair. Stick with those.
so leave out the, board stuff in the beginning?
No, just say.
Just in this variance, the board adopts its findings, the findings of the chair.
Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion on this one? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
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 All right, are there any opposed? Okay. All right, that brings us to item number 5. This is a reapproval of an application from 2019. I don't see that there's any change, and so I would just
Please approve it.
I would offer simply the prior findings should be sufficient, and let's see. We can. Tony S., do you mind making this motion?
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
All right, with respect to item number 5, I move that the board approve the request for a area variance, item number 5, and it's based upon review of the application, testimony of the applicant at the public hearing, site visits by board members, and the findings of the chair.
I would say the prior findings.
Prior findings.
Okay.
Excuse me.
And
It's a reapplication.
Correct.
Prior findings.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Are you okay? Okay. All right, any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
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 All right, are there any opposed? And that motion carries. That brings us to item number 6. 58 Alder Drive.
That was adjourned.
Oh, that was adjourned, right?
That was adjourned.
Do we do that to December, right?
Yep.
Okay. December, what was it?
December 13th.
Adjourned, I wrote it right there. Okay, that brings us to number 7, 21 Stephanie Lane. All right, anyone have any concerns about this one? All right, this is the one where, this is the front porch, which is in line with the house and has no real encroachment, okay. So I would offer these findings: whether an undesirable change will reduce in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. This is consistent with other homes in the neighborhood. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. There's no method to achieve desired result other than an area variance due to the position of the home and the small lot size. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, it's mathematically it is, but it has no further encroachment on the side lot line more than the existing structure. And there will be no physical or environmental impact based upon this application. And while this is self-created, that's not a reason to deny the application. And so, I would offer those findings. Christine, do you mind doing
Sure.
this one?
I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item number 7. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings as set forth by the chair. So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this one? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, so that motion carries. That brings us to number 8. This is 6 Congress Street, the generator. Anyone have any concerns about this one? Did you give her you gave her?
Help herself.
All right.
She knows where they are.
Okay. Anyone have any concerns about this one?
And I think as long as it's not that noisy, probably my air conditioner's noisier than this is going to be, so.
Yeah. And just the routine running of it, it doesn't seem to have any major issues. What do you think about some screening, some plant screenings?
The only concern, do you have a generator? Because having plants close to a generator is not a good idea. But, so if, in a way,
The way
I'm all for the screening, but
Yeah,
it
it doesn't.
needs to be.
There are some plants along the corner there, so they don't have to be right up next to it, just so you don't really see it from the street. So
Mhm.
whatever, you can plant them wherever you like, just so that you really can't see the generator. I think that would cut down on the noise a little bit too. Unless he wants to put up a fence that's bigger than 3.5 feet, in which case he has to come and.
But that would hide it.
3.5 feet
Yeah.
it might.
I would make that
I
suggestion
think
to
he's
him,
trying
that
to
it would
cover all the
amply
other-
hide it.
What's that?
He indicated he was trying to cover all the other connections with the
Yeah, that's,
solar
yeah,
panel and
yeah,
everything
cover
else.
all
That
that,
house is
yeah.
very busy on that side.
Yeah.
All the disconnects.
So,
The
some nice
transfer
cedars
switches.
there, or,
He's got evergreen, some kind of a
yeah,
permanent.
nice arborvitae.
That's your answer to everything
Everything.
tonight. Arborvitae. Buying stock in arborvitae.
All right, so then, if nobody has any problems, I'll offer these findings. Whether an undesirable change would reduce in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. This appears to be consistent with the other properties in the neighborhood. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance. Due to the small lot size and the fact that it's a corner lot and the position of the building on the lot, there's no way to achieve this without an area variance. Whether the requested area variance is substantial mathematically, but actually based upon the position of the house, and there's very limited encroachment into the lot, into the front lot line from the generator. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district, based upon the testimony that the generator has a low noise emission and only runs infrequently for a few moments. As a test, I don't think it'll have any effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood or district. And while, of course, this is self-created, that's not a reason to deny the application, and I would offer those findings. Art, do you mind doing this one?
Sure. Excuse me. I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item number 8. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings set forth by the chair with the amendments for the screening.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, then all those in favor signify by aye. Simona, you'll be voting in this one? Okay. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries, and I believe that resolves all the issues.
Did we do Kindred?
Taco Bell was adjourned.
That was adjourned.
Taco Bell was adjourned.
And we did all right, so I think that's everything. I want to thank everyone, and I'd make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okey dokey.
Okay, all right. Then that motion carries and we're adjourned. Thank you very much.